Finally, some positive news relating to Palace. It seems like Jefferson Lerma has officially signed a new deal. And also, there's an update on our summer plans from The Athletic, a very good article answering basically all the questions that we've had in our heads. So I'm going to go through that and answer some of the points and actually have a live reaction to it because I actually haven't read it. And also an update on Zaha to Saudi Arabia and more. Let's get started with Palace news. What's going on, people? Welcome to Live Palace News. A bit late today, later than usual. Let's just say that around 10 o'clock in the UK. Maybe it's early for you guys. Maybe it's even later than usual, depending on what side of the world you're in. As always, if you do enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe to not miss out on future Palace content. We're trying to do these daily videos as it comes. Right before I went live, I was thinking, damn, there's a lot of negatives to talk about because of that article that I mentioned in the introduction. Fabrizio Romano drops a bomb and he says the following regarding Jefferson Lerma's contract. So we're doing this late, but we got good news right before we started. Literally about 10 minutes ago, Fabrizio Romano has said the following, that Crystal Palace are set to sign Lerma. Here we go. That's his words. Free transfer from Bournemouth completed. Documents are sealed. So it seems like Jefferson Lerma has officially, well, not technically Crystal Palace officially, but according to Romano, there was a verbal agreement, but all the contracts are now signed. So it is all set and done. Let's hope that is true. It's a verbal agreement that was reached a week ago. That's what he's saying. The contract is signed and it will be valid until June 2027. So quite a lengthy contract as well for Lerma. Look, I'll give my reaction once Palace post as well. We'll jump on here with a few other people giving our reactions to the signing. But finally, that is all said and done. I was not worried about it. We've got a bit of time till preseason starts anyways. But the timing of it is good because there's a lot of negatives that happened today as well, which apparently anyways, I'm going to go read through the article with you guys covering it. So this is a good way to end the day. Let's just say that. But Lerma has officially, it seems like, has signed for Palace, according to Fabrizio Romano. So hopefully an announcement should happen this week, but we're talking about Crystal Palace, so God knows when it might happen. It might take another week or so. SE says, finally, some good news on transfers. Great signing, says Dean. Luke also said, really did a sign. Great news. Hooray, says Red. Chloe, we're going to get into that. I thought we'll start off with a positive. And a lot of people are talking about that article already. But look, Lerma, I think, is a very good addition. And I've said this many times for you guys that have been watching these live videos. I think it's a very good addition on a free transfer as well. I don't think this is a free transfer for the sake of having a free transfer. I think this is a player that adds quality to our squad straight away. But hopefully we'll get a few Bournemouth fans as well, get their reactions to it. I'm going to try to get as much insight into the player as much as possible out on the channel. So hopefully we'll get that out in the next few days once it's announced to get an opposition perspective, because no one knows Lerma better than Bournemouth fans. He was literally there. So that should be good as well. Caleb says we took a while to get this done, but it's done. Look, Caleb, and honestly, we didn't have to get it done last week, or we don't have to get it done even next week. Like, we got a bit of time, but now that it's official and now that he's signed the contracts, it should be interesting. I wonder if Joachim Madsen is going to be there for the video announcement. I think if Palace are smart with it, you have to have Anderson there, but I'm pretty sure Anderson's out on holiday. I don't think he's going to be coming back to the club for Jefferson Lerma announcement video. That says, what does that mean? Hamada won't get a chance. I don't think that is the case. I think Hamada will still get a chance in the squad because we need depth options. I think Jefferson Lerma is a starter. So if you're talking about as a starter, I don't think Hamada will get a chance because for me, the ideal midfield three would be Doucouré, Lerma, and Eze. So Hamada, no, he wouldn't come into the starting lineup, but I think Hamada will play a key role now that Luka and James McArthur's gone, coming off the bench, you would expect. But then again, that depends on the manager, because certain managers that we know, they prefer their players, and yeah, it has worked. So if it's Roy that stays on, maybe he looks at Hamada a bit more next season, but I expect him to play off the bench. Let's just say that. Our one and only signing, still 60-40 on the Zaha move. I'm going to go to Zaha as well. So there's an update on Wilf. Well, it was quite frantic about a few hours ago. In honesty, I was working and I literally came back from work and I thought, you know what, we have to jump on live. We have to. There's a few things that's gone on today that even I haven't read. Apparently, that seems a bit crazy. But yeah, there was a few frantic hours about Zaha. But announcement tomorrow, apparently, I wouldn't be surprised about that. We still need midfield depth, to be honest. One more midfield signing. Lerma can carry the ball. Perfect signing. Yeah, I agree. I think Lerma's a very, very good signing, considering that he was on a free transfer as well. Look, people, hopefully he signs somewhere officially. Then we'll do a live reaction video just purely on Jefferson Lerma, and we'll have a bit more content coming out on Lerma as it happens. But yes, that's what Fabrizio Romano is saying, that the contract is officially, signed now. So hopefully an announcement sooner rather than later. But now, should we talk about the negatives? There's been a few today. It depends on how you view it, to be fair. Let me take that back. It might not be a negative. For you, it might be a positive. For you, it might be maybe reassurance. It depends on how you view things. And honestly, some people are upset about it. Me personally, I'm a bit more frustrated than happy about the article that came out from The Athletic. Matt Wozenham done a great job. Nothing on Matt Wozenham or The Athletic. I think it's a great piece of work. But some of the stuff that's in it about our plans for the summer, and in honesty, I haven't read it. I've seen glimpses of what people are saying about it, about the right back position that's been mentioned, about whether we have enough money to spend. That was also mentioned as well. So I'm going to give my live reaction on here. I'm going to read it out on here to see what exactly is going on, because apparently I heard something about Gyökeres as well. So yes, Cheap FC says punch it back, please. But if you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, people. And let's get into the article. By the way, I'll leave a link to the article in the description down below. So you guys, if you're watching on replay, because I know it's a bit late, not every one of you will join live, you can click on the link and read the article for yourself. And also make sure to join The Athletic. They haven't paid us for this, but it's genuinely one of the best media outlets there for football content. So if you want your football content, football podcasts, just general news about Palace, you have to go subscribe to The Athletic. It's a great platform. But yeah, look, let's start off with the article. So this is my live reaction to it. I've seen glimpses here and there, but I actually haven't read it. So it starts off with this. Crystal Palace head into the summer transfer window with uncertainty hanging over them. Great start. Great start. There is no decision yet on whether Roy Hodgson will continue as a manager. So that's interesting. Or whether the team's talesman Wilfried Zaha will accept the £200,000 per week contract offer put in front of him to extend his stay at the club going into next season. So that's interesting. So a decision apparently hasn't been made on whether Roy Hodgson will be remaining at the club as a manager. That is a bit surprising because, well, maybe. Because I still think Roy will stay at the club. That's my general feeling about it. I still feel like Roy will stay at the club. But the Wilfried Zaha bit, that doesn't surprise me one bit because I don't think Zaha's made a decision. By the way, after this, we'll talk about Wilf because there was a few updates today regarding him once again. But as I'm reading this, make sure to chip in as well in the live comment section what you guys think about it. No decision on whether Roy will continue as manager. Maybe that's a shock to a few people. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next paragraph. Those two factors will influence what happens and who Palace seek to sign. So the manager clearly plays a part on the signing. That's also surprising because I thought we'll be recruiting regardless of the next manager. But apparently that's what the article says. So too will possible departures. Until there's a resolution on multiple fronts, plans will remain flexible. So not much so based on this so far, nothing is pretty concrete in terms of manager. Wilf, that's not surprising, but manager maybe a bit surprising. Wilf, that's fine. And signings as well. I think that's the biggest surprising thing so far in this article about the signings. Nothing is concrete and the plan is flexible depending potentially on the next manager or if Wilfried Zaha stays. If Wilf stays or leaves, of course, we have to be flexible on that because if Wilf signs, we don't need to go get another left winger and spend big on that. So we have to be flexible in that area. But with the other signings, that could be potentially interesting. Maybe I'm reading into it a bit wrong, but that's what the article says. And 11th place finish over the 2022-23 season was positive, but there are gaps in the squad, which I think we know as Palace fans, with depth required in attacking positions, 100%. The Athletic looks at what may await Palace once the transfer window is open for business. So it starts off with who could be heading out. There are two different strands to this. By the way, if you're joining now, I'm reading the Athletic article that came up today. My live reaction to it as well. I didn't read it beforehand. So there are players that Palace would be willing to sell, given they have struggled to prove themselves effective in the Premier League. So straight off my head, I'm going to go with Edouard or potentially Mateta, but let's see if you announce it. Then there are those who will attract interest from elsewhere and whose departures might raise the funds to facilitate a greater spend on more or better players to flesh out the squad. So there's two strands to who could be heading out. So there's players that we want to sell. Okay, here we go. I think there's my theory about this. The two strikers, Odsonne Edouard and Wilfried Mateta, arguably fit into the former category and either could depart this summer. So that's not really surprising me. It seems like Palace wants to get rid of both Edouard and Mateta, which is interesting. That both of them in the same window, because ideally then you have to bring in 2 or 3 strikers in one window. I mean, what's the plan there? That's interesting. Mateta started just 6 games this season, scoring twice. He struggled. Everton were interested in taking him in January, so I'm going to quickly skim through this bit. But Palace did not want to be left with only one recognised striker. Makes sense. And there's more chance of replacing the Frenchman this summer. So apparently we didn't want to sell Mateta in the January transfer window. There was interest from Everton for Mateta, but we didn't want to send him to direct rivals. Makes sense, and there's a better chance of replacing him this summer. So it seems like Mateta is one of those players that we want to move on this summer, which is interesting. I don't think that surprises any of you lot, or it doesn't surprise me one bit. Edouard, a clearly confidence player, says the article, has flattered to deceive. There has been high points to his stint in South London, but they have rarely matched the optimism generated by his 2 goals debut against Tottenham in September 2021. A tally of 11 goals and 63 already. That is mental. 63 Premier League appearances feels underwhelming. Damn, I didn't realize Edouard's played 63 games for us. Yeah, it is underwhelming. Edouard has shown glimpses, has shown flashes of quality at Palace. Then there are those whose sales, however reluctantly sanctioned, might give Palace more leeway in the market. So about the players potentially linked to leave the club if we were to sell them. So it seemed like Edouard and Mateta is one of those players that we want to sell regardless. And then there's also the mention from the article suggesting that Palace may look at selling players that there are genuine interest. So, you know, I assume that's going to be the likes of Gehi, Eze, or Elise. That's what I'm assuming. Let's continue the article. Eze's form under Hodgson has been so resurgent that he has earned himself England call-up. He has only 2 years left in his contract, and with no formal talks having taken place over yet a new deal. Interesting. 2 years left on Eze's new deal. No formal talks have yet to take place. Should be fine. 2 years is good enough time, but surely sooner rather than later, you want that to be sorted so you know your future plans. Luke says Edouard is lazy. Mateta lacks footballing ability. Fair enough. Caleb says Antonio from West Ham as a striker. His future's uncertain there. Striker only becomes a parity if Mateta leaves, which will be more likely than not. That's interesting. I'll go through some of the other comments as well. Let me finish this. So no formal talks have been taking place from Eze regarding his contract situation, according to Athletic. This would be the optimum time to sell from a financial perspective if no extension is looking likely. What? I was not expecting that. So I agree with Matt here. I mean, it does make sense. You don't want to have a player like Eze leave on a free if he doesn't want to sign a new contract extension. But selling Eze this summer, that would be interesting. I don't know if I'd be happy with that. I think Eze's, I don't know about you lot, but I think Eze is one of those players for me anyways that I feel like if Elise was to leave, if Gehi was to leave, Eze is the one that we could build around. So if that's the case, then we need to have them contract talks ASAP to know whether Eze wants to sign. I think Eze, he's enjoying his football here. I'll be surprised that Eze wouldn't want to sign a new deal at Palace. But yeah, that's interesting. So according to the Athletic, no formal talks about his contract has yet taken place. Okay. Newcastle United, let me continue this. Newcastle United were previously interested and there will surely be more admirers this time around. So, of course, there's going to be interest in Eze. Now, moving on to another player that we could potentially sell. The article talks about Mark Gehi, who has 3 years left on his deal, so a bit better there. There's no urgency to sell Gehi, but there's a long-standing admiration from Tottenham and Arsenal too. So we've mentioned both of those clubs with Mark Gehi about a month ago now, probably 2 months ago. I can't keep up with time anymore. There's a lot of news coming through, but Gehi has been linked with Tottenham and Arsenal. The Athletic article reaffirms that and, says that the link is clearly there. So it's not just paper talk. It's coming from the Athletic as well. His 2 seasons at Palace have been excellent, and it will take a major offer for the club to consider selling. So interesting. So with Gehi, we're not as keen to selling him. We need a major offer. That's the words from the Athletic. A major offer to sell Mark Gahey. For me, I've said it time and time again when he was linked with Arsenal, when he was linked with Tottenham as well. For me, Gahey, if you're willing to sell Gahey, and if you're talking about major offer, that major offer has to be in the region of 60 million plus. And I think that's what Palace are leaning towards based on what I'm seeing from the article about not willing to sell Mark Gahey. But yeah, let me continue with Mark Gahey anyways, because that's not all. But if Palace are to stick with the model of buying young, developing and selling at a profit, then at some point in the future, there may have to be a painful departure somewhere. So based on this about departures, what I've gathered, Mateta and Edwards, we're happy to sell him. But my question in response to that, do we bring in 2 forwards or 3 forwards, and who on earth would do 2 to 3 forwards be? So that's my stance on that. With the Eze one, that's bit surprised me. The article from the Athletic, what Matt has said about, potentially looking at the option of selling Eze, because there's been no formal talks that's yet to take place. And if Eze doesn't want to sign, now is the best time to sell Eze, which is a bit of a shock to me, because for me, I would have thought that Gahey was to leave before the likes of Eze. He's not saying that Eze is going to leave, but he's saying that it might be worth, opening them talks sooner rather than later to see where his head is at and whether an agreement for a new contract could be set in place, which is interesting. By the way, I'm going to go through some of the comments. Don't worry about that. If you're joining us now, I'm reading through the Athletic article about what's happened earlier on. It's from Matt Wisdom that basically tells us Palace's summer plans. But let me continue. So how much money is likely to be available this summer? This is a question that you guys asked me. Unfortunately, I don't know. We guess because I don't run Palace. I don't own shares of Palace. I'm a fan just like you lot. We all have a voice, and I don't know how much money is available. So Matt asked that question. Let's see what his answer is. He says the following. This very much depends on what happens with outgoings. The main thing to note is that any Palace supporter is desperately hoping for a hefty transfer. Without anyone leaving, it's going to be disappointed. So, as you guys can see from the title, no big money to spend unless we sell is the mood that I'm getting from this article. Not only just the mood, basically that is what Matt is suggesting. No, we haven't, Ethan. We haven't discussed Wilf to Saudi yet. So it seems like there's not going to be a hefty transfer spend unless anyone is leaving, basically. So it seems like we have to sell to buy. Now, when you talk about hefty, what is hefty? That's interesting because here it doesn't say anything about hefty will be 60 million or 70 million, or hefty might be 30 million, depending on what our hefty is. But see, that's a bit of a disappointment because I don't think we have to. It depends how you view it. I don't think we have to spend big, but I know what's coming later on in the article because I've seen comments on Twitter. And in fact, I'll give my reaction to it. But look, it seems like we have to sell to spend big this window. That's what the article is suggesting. Luca and MacArthur's departed, trimming the wage bill. So I'm going to skim through this. Joe Wood. Okay, interesting. Joe Wood has signed a new deal to stay alongside Nathaniel Klein and James Tompkins, meaning they're still experienced in the squad to supplement the youthful recruits of the last 2 seasons. Ward, Klein, Tompkins signed, according to the Athletic. You know what this means? I have nothing personal towards Joe Wood and Nathaniel Klein, but you know what this means, right? I don't think I'm foolish by suggesting that if we keep in Joe Wood, if we're keeping Nathaniel Klein, are we getting a new right back? Is it going to be another window where we don't strengthen the right back position that we've needed to strengthen for the last 3 years or so? Now, I wouldn't have minded one of Joe Wood and Nathaniel Klein staying, but you can't have both of them stay because I know what this means. I hope to God I'm proven wrong. I hope so. But I just have the feeling that that's it. That's it for the right back position. Oh, that's frustrating. It's genuinely frustrating. Tompkins, I'm not that frustrated with. You need a bit of experience there. But for me, I think keeping Joe Wood plus Tompkins or Nathaniel Klein plus Tompkins would have made a bit more sense. Look, I want us to it's a position that we've needed to strengthen for ages. People may look at it as like a right back position. We don't need to strengthen it as much because it's just right back. But look, if we get a new attacking right back, I think that helps massively to the likes of Michael Olise. and he's got 11 goals this season. Imagine you have another overlapping right back, a younger right back. I mean, why are we so okay with this, going cheap for the right back position? I don't understand it. Last season, we didn't spend big. This summer, there was that hope that we're going to come in here, we're going to come to the season, 3 players out of contract, and we're going to, solve the main issues. The right back position, the striker, midfield. Midfield with Lerma, as I mentioned at the start, it seemed like that's a done deal, so that's fine there. But going into a season with Joe Ward and Nathaniel Klein, let me know what you guys think. It just doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't. Like, it's an area that we've needed to strengthen for ages. And I had this debate with someone on Twitter as well who said that, we have to spend on other positions like striker. I'd rather bring in a striker. But why are we so, we brought Lerma on a free. But why are we so tight? It feels like we're so tight. Like, how much money do we have to spend? If we don't have 50 million to spend on a right back and 50 million to spend on a striker, how much money what is it? What is it that we have? Because for me, it doesn't make any sense. You need to strengthen that position. You need to. We've been looking at right back. We've been on here on Palace News talking about right back position. And I've said it a lot of times. It's fine. Ideally, we need to get rid of, Nathaniel Klein and Joe Wood and build for the future. But let's be realistic. That probably wasn't going to happen. But we need to keep one of them and getting a new right back. Why are we in this situation of potentially keeping Joe Wood and Nathaniel Klein going into next season and not strengthening that position when we know they are aging? The only explanation for me, yes, you can look at experiences. We just don't want to spend. We just don't want to spend on a right back position. And our budget clearly seems tight. And based on what the article has said so far, is that we need to sell to spend big. But, I mean, do we need to sell to bring in another right back? Is that how tight we are? Like, I don't even think we need to spend like 50 million or so. I think a solid 30 million will be fine, or 35, 40 million will be fine. And is that unrealistic to ask for a football club that's been in the Premier League for about 10 years? I mean, last season we didn't spend big, so you'd expect a bit of that money to carry on here, but it seems like the same things. It feels like the same things. I mean, when we're looking at right back position, we mentioned it here. Some people said Kyle Walker-Peters. That's from a club that's been relegated. Leeds, they don't have any right backs. Leicester, I know some people mentioned the likes of James and James Justin and also Castagna as well. But, these right backs have been mentioned from clubs that's been relegated. And there's a reason for that, because our right back position in terms of depth and in terms of quality is arguably one of our main weaknesses. Maybe striker, you can argue that, but striker and right back, that's the position we need to strengthen. But anyways, let me continue the article. Let me know what you guys think as well about the right back position. James Tompkins, I'm not really that frustrated with, but signing both Nathaniel Klein and Joe Wood, I know what that means, in all honesty. Hopefully I'm wrong anyways. If Zaha does not sign the £200,000 per week contract offer on the table and opts to leave when his current deal expires later this month, then there will be even more room on the verge on the wage bill. So that's no surprise. If Zaha doesn't sign £200,000 per week, then of course we got money to use around that, which I think everyone knows that. Anyways, should he leave Palace, those through the youth ranks, he wrote, should he leave Palace? I'm trying to skim through it because I'm not going to try to go through the whole article. Okay, so Palace will be saving 200 over. So if Zaha was to leave through Palace, the article is saying that Palace will be saving over £200,000 per week on his and Milivojevic's wages alone. So that's interesting. For those who don't want Zaha to stay, the article suggests that if he was to leave, we'll be saving over £200,000 per week just on Zaha and Luca's wages alone, which is a lot of money that we can play about with, especially to transfer fee as well. Mukhtar says, means Hodgson is staying if we're not getting enough right back. Otherwise, they would have waited for the new manager. Agree. I'll be surprised if we get a new right back anyways. So, yeah. So, for those who don't want Wilf to stay, I think that would be good news to you lot. And it raises your points even further about not wanting to keep Wilf, because that's a lot of money to, save in terms of wages, £200,000 per week and more. Given that transfer fees are spread across the duration of a player's contract, the sale of a key player would fund multiple new arrivals. Once again, we're going back to a sale of a key player. That's the move. It seems like ideally, if we want to spend big, we have to sell one of these key players, which could fund multiple new arrivals, according to the Athletic. So who makes these decisions over the new signings? Matt answers this as well on the Athletic. He says, the primary primary people in charge is Doug Friedman alongside Chairman Steve Parrish. They'll work with the input of the scouting department overseen by Friedman and recruitment analyst who reports to the head of performance and recruitment analysis, Ben Stevens. Friedman and Parrish's plans to buy younger talent started when the former Palace striker and manager returned to the club in 2017, but ramped up in 2021. With those either early in their careers whose potential was exciting or approaching their peak. So Friedman and Parrish run the decisions about players. That's no surprise there as well. The club remains committed to that approach, but for all of that, there's an acceptance that it must be balanced with the right blend of youth and experience, which is why I think we resigned Tompkins on a new deal, and also we got likes of Joe Ward and Nathaniel Klein on a new contract as well. So, of course, they don't want to just sign a group of 21-year-olds with no experience in the squad. But saying that, I still disagree with the move, with signing both right backs, Nathaniel Klein and Joe Ward to new deals. I don't agree with that, because I just think that's negative. I think that's very negative, and it's too cheap for my liking. A goal-scoring striker is likely to be on the list of most clubs in the bottom half of the table, of course, but Palace could do with bolstering that position. Neither Edouard nor Mateta has claimed it, with the industrious Jordan Ayew sometimes preferred through the middle. If Zaha leaves, then they will need to replace him with another left winger. Agree. Likewise, either Gehi or Eze would need replacing if they were sold in this window. Once again, Eze's name is being mentioned about being, if they were sold in the window. I haven't heard anything about Elise. Haven't heard anything about Anderson or Decore. It's been Gehi and Eze. And if you guys are just joining now, I'm just going through the Athletic article, what Matt Woosnam posted earlier on today. And it seems like what he's suggesting anyways is that Eze's got 2 years left in his deal. No formal talks have yet taken place. He's saying that now would be the most ideal time to sell Eze if, those talks don't progress, which is interesting. Gehi or Eze is the two names that's getting mentioned. I think that's the Gehi one doesn't surprise me, but Eze is the biggest surprise. And also in the article, it did say that Palace would require major money for Gehi. So we're not willing to sell Gehi. We're not willing to sell any of these players, it seems like, but apart from maybe Eze. Also, Jamal says you will not save £200,000 a week if you sign Sarr, for example. You have to buy him, let's say, £35 million pound, then wages, let's say 150k. So yeah, I don't think Sarr would cost 150k in wages, but yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Ethan is saying if Wilf left at £200,000 a week would be in 10.4 million we could put towards a transfer, and that's assuming that we were offering Wilf a 1 year deal. No, we're offering Wilf, it seemed like a 4 year deal, so it'll be more than that. We're talking about an average, if that's the right maths, then near enough like 40 million. 10 million extra per year on transfer budgets. But then again, you have to remember, Ethan, if we were to get rid of Zaha, then what that would mean is we have to spend that money anyways, and the replacement would cost more than 10.4 million. Now, I'm pretty sure about that. So it wouldn't quite be. So in a way, I understand where Jamal and Ethan's coming from, but I don't think we would be saving that 10.4 million pound. I think we would be reinvesting in the left winger position anyway, so it wouldn't be that massive. The Colombian midfielder Lerma will join on July the 1st upon the expiry of his Bournemouth contract. So, as I mentioned at the start of the show, Jefferson Lerma signs a new contract. That's from Fabrizio Romano. The Athletic is confirming that as well, which is interesting. Should Zaha leave, this is interesting. So, if Wilf was to leave, what happens? Should Zaha leave, then Matthias Franca, so the player that we've been talking about on Palace News quite a bit, the 19-year-old forward from Flamengo, is a possibility as a replacement. So it seems like Matthias Franca could be the Wilf replacement. That's what the club are looking at, according to the Athletic. What do you guys think about that? I think that would be a bold move, considering that, there's going to be question marks raised over whether he can do it in the Premier League. And also, when I looked into Franca, he doesn't start that many games for Flamengo in the first place. And to replace a player like Zaha and bring him into England, 19 years old, I think that would be, very high praise and potential from Palace. That's how they see Franca, if they were to bring in Franca for Zaha. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Would you be happy with Franca coming in for Wilf if he was to leave? So that's gone past. So let's go and continue this. We're going towards the end. Not that. There has been some interest in resigning Aaron Wan-Bissaka from Manchester United. No surprise there. The former defender would represent an upgrade on those currently at the books, yes. Though whether United would be willing to sell a player who's revived this season remains to be seen. Regardless, interesting. So my theory about right back position. Regardless, right back would not now be a priority for Palace, given they have renewed Ward and Klein, and any deal for Wan-Bissaka would be relatively costly. So I'll read that again. Regardless, right back would not now be a priority for Palace, given that they have renewed Ward and Klein. And that is where my personal problem lies. That's where it lies. We can't. It's just, I mean, geez, I don't know what to say. I'm lost for words, in honesty. We need a new right back. I'm sorry, Joe Wood had a good end to the season. Nathaniel Klein had periods, but we need a new right back. Why on earth do we keep avoiding this position? Like, we don't need another right back. We're talking about players in their 30s and another season under their belts. They could potentially, we've seen it. At times, Joe Wood and Pace, they don't get along. They're not good friends. You can get, another season of Joe Wood, he's going to probably lose a bit more pace. I can't just look at the last 10 games and just say that's it for Joe Wood. I've seen a few games. I mean, Joe Wood hasn't had a bad season, but you're asking an awful lot to go into a new season with Joe Wood and Nathaniel Klein. That it doesn't show any ambition. I mean, what from what I'm gathering from this is so far is we're happy to stay up. That's it going into next season. Because I'm not seeing anything so far in the article that suggests that we want to push forward. I mean, we're resigning the right backs that we've known all along that we need to ideally strengthen at some point. So we're going to have another year of those. It seems like Gahey, we're not willing to sell him for higher profit unless a major offer comes. Maybe Eze could potentially leave. But about signings, there isn't anything major. There isn't anything major so far anyways. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you are right, Colin. We have also got 2 loan options, so hopefully we do use them. But we've needed a right back. I agree, Luke. I mean, we've needed a right back since 1920 season, and we're going into 23-24 season, and we seem like we're going to be going into a season with Joe Wood and Nathaniel Klein once again. I mean, it seems a bit crazy. But anyways, let me continue this. So in the last 3 summer window spends, Palace have spent approximately £17.3 million in the transfer window of 2020. We spent £63 million in 2021 and £28 million in 2022. The outlay from 2 years ago reflected the need to rejuvenate an aging squad at the time and saw the arrivals of Joachim Andersen, blah, 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 Will Hughes. We already know the players that arrived, so I'll skip through that part. Of those, the only real disappointment has been Edouard's failure to bring in the form he showed in Scotland to the Premier League. Yet, in comparison with other Premier League clubs, Palace tend to operate within their means and remain relatively low spenders. Even Matt says as well, in comparison to other Premier League clubs, we just don't spend big. I'm not saying spend big for the sake of spending big. I just want the positions that we need to solve. I'll rather, just right back. Let's start there. Just solve that position. Let's move on from there. Then we don't have to look at right back for another 2 to 3 years if we bring in a younger right back that we can develop. Just like right now, as it stands right now, we don't need another centre back because we've got Gahey. We don't need another number 10 because we've got Eze. Why are we so persistent on not bringing another right back? Okay, so who's an outside name to keep an eye on? This is the finale of the article. So Coventry striker Victor Gyökeres is an outsider, says Matt from The Athletic. But Palace would face serious competition for him, not least from Wolverhampton Wanderers. The 25-year-old will be in high demand in the summer after scoring 21 goals in the Championship. And that's where it ends. So the outside name to keep an eye on is Gyökeres, which Palace would face serious competition. And knowing how we like to spend, I mean, if Wolves want him, they'll probably go and end up getting him because we're not willing to spend big. But look, I read the article, of course, it's quite long. I didn't realize I've been talking for 34 minutes. Sorry, I might put some of you lot to bed. But what do you guys think about that? So I'll summarize it. This is my live reaction to the article. It seemed like we have to sell big to bring in and spend a bit more money than we expect this summer. But we're not willing to spend on Gahey. We're not willing to sell Gahey unless it's a major offer. So that's one of the points that I got. Klein, Joe Wood, Tompkins signs a new deal, which also means that the right back position is not going to be a priority now going into the summer, which I think is heavily unserious from us, especially for the right back position. In terms of players leaving and money involved, it doesn't say exact figure, but it says that if, Zaha was to leave and Luka Milivojevic leaving as well, would open up over £200,000 a week in terms of wages, which can be spent elsewhere and on potentially multiple new signings as well. And, it also says Doug EMC Parrish is running the show, which we already know. And, Lerma is a player that's joining us, but Matheus Franca could be Zaha's replacement. So what do you guys think about all of that? For me, I think Franca replacing Wilf, I think that would be interesting, but it'd be very bold move from a club, from a player that we don't know much about and that doesn't play that often for Flamengo over in Brazil. But the right back position just annoyed me, I'll be honest. It just annoyed me. And G says would rather have Richards right back than Ward Clyne. But we said this all along, but Richards, it seemed like he's not a right back. He seems to play centre back whenever he plays, so he's not really a right back option. And in honesty, forget about all of these individual names that we're talking about. If we're so tight as it is, of course we know that we have to sell to bring in some of these players, but if we're that tight as it is now, what does that mean for our next manager? Because in an article, it suggested that we haven't made a decision yet on keeping Roy, which is kind of a surprise to me because I thought we probably made a decision and, it'll be announced sooner rather than later, but that decision hasn't been made yet. But if you're trying to get new manager in and you're seeing some of the stuff there, I'm not saying everything is bad, but if you're talking about tight budget, Palace being one of the lowest spenders in the Premier League, would you really want to join Palace? I mean, when there's other clubs that's going to be available, for example, let's use Graham Potter as an example. As I've heard talks about him potentially wanting to join Leicester in the Championship if he gets reassurances that he can run the show, or West Ham are involved. Can we attract the likes of Graham Potter if this is the case? I don't think so, and I think all along that's why we would keep Roy, because it's easier. It's easier to control Roy. But look, Patrick as well says if you don't move forward, you end up going backwards. Not optimistic about next season at all. 100%. Look, the Lerma stuff, I started off on a positive, given the Lerma update, but there's nothing to be optimistic about from this article anyways. Of course, the window ain't done, and Palace ain't going to come publicly and also say that we are willing to spend big. That'll be a stupid thing to do. We're willing to spend big. We're Crystal Palace. Other clubs are going to hear that and say, all right, then we want £30 million for this player rather than £20 million. You're willing to spend big. So Palace ain't going to come out publicly and say that. But also, I don't think would also be putting all these out if it ain't true as well. I think Matt Wisdom is a fantastic journalist from The Athletic. He's very reliable, one of the most reliable sources. And it seemed like Lerma on free, that's done. But it seems like potentially another not exciting window for, depending on how you view things. For me, an exciting window would have been bringing in another striker, bringing in another right back, getting another midfielder, which we seem like we got it sorted, and kicking on from there. But from what I'm gathering, based on this article, is that, Guy Chris is an outside chance, potentially get him. We're willing to sell Edouard and Mateta, but then again, who on earth do we bring in as forwards if we sell Edouard and Mateta? Because we have to spend for that as well. There's no clarity on that. But yeah, let me go through some of the comments. Ethan says, reason for optimism, if you only counted results post-Roy's appointment, would be 6th and 7th on the table. But then also, Ethan, yes, you can look at it like that as well. But in all honesty, if you're being realistic about it, last 10 games is all good, but that's a short game time. When you have pre-season, when you start a game with pre-season, new players joining, players going out on a break, and starting again, my fear is that it might not be the same as we ended the season, because Roy took over from Patrick Vieira, essentially, from Patrick Vieira's work. But that's all done now. We have like 2 to 3 months of literally no football. So you have to start again at some point. But that did look well in terms of optimism. But then again, I'm not getting carried away with that. The form, we ended the season brilliantly, but I'm not getting carried away with that personally as well. Thinking maybe Ibuwe and Plange and Raksaki will have a say next season to save on money. I love Raksaki to bits, but Plange, realistically, I mean, did Plange even play that much out on loan in League One? I mean, we're looking at players that we're talking about replacing Edouard and Mateta with Luke Plange. That's not serious. We're not serious right now. We're not serious. And my worst fear is that other clubs are going to continue spending in the Premier League. And we've got some decent players, but we're we're not going to be able to close that gap. All we have to do is just build 1 or 2 more positions. That's what we have to do. But my fear is that we're not going to do that. Look, we can mention individuals linked after World Cup, nothing since. But look, there's nothing in the article suggested it. In the article, the only players that we heard about is Gyökeres and Matheus Franca, really, in terms of coming in, and Lerma, of course, which we know that he's going to sign. Apart from that, there's been no other names suggested. I mean, even forwards aspect, that's a bit worrying. But look, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think as well. We need to let Wolf move on. I think Potter would be a great move and maybe open the checkbook as well. I think Potter would be a great move, but would Potter want to move to Palace if there's demand for him elsewhere as well? That's the other question to ask. We are Premier League football club, 100%. But if West Ham get rid of David Moyes and Potter has more money to spend at West Ham, maybe given a bit more freedom in terms of bringing in the players that he wants, why would you want to come to Palace? There's that question as well, because it seems like we have to sell anyway some of these assets to bring in others, which is expected, and Brighton are doing that as well. But yeah, I don't know if Potter would want to come. And Red says the same thing following it. Why would Potter come here? Especially if he reads that. If I'm Potter, I wouldn't want to come to Palace. Unless Palace would be my last option. Let's just say that. If there's other clubs that are serious, such as West Ham, I don't know about Leicester. I'll be very surprised if he moves to Leicester. Or let's say Palace versus West Ham, right? If I'm Potter, and based on what I've heard there, not that it's all negative, but I'd rather probably go West Ham and start again there fresh than join Palace, because it seems like we have to sell to buy. West Ham are going to get rid of Declan Rice, so they're going to have a bit more, but a bigger budget as well to work around that. But look, people, that's the Athletic article. We'll move on from that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section if you're watching on replay, because I know it's a bit late. But if you're enjoying it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, people, for more Palace content that'll be coming out. Let's move on to the final bit of story today, which was on Wilf. We talk about him every single day, but I don't know. It must have been slow news day. Oh no. Hold on, I need to stop. Drew says, could see us going for Hajirai again. Oh, for a second, I thought you said we are going for Hajirai again. And Akpom, that will be able to get Gyökeres. Yeah, if we go for Hajirai, we are massively unserious. West Ham might be in Europa if they win the final this week as well, exactly. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard competing against those clubs to bring in another manager, especially the manager in terms of Graham Potter's style. But saying that, club haven't made a decision yet, according to the Athletic, on the next manager. So we don't know yet. But look, let's move on to Wilf. And there's been a few stuff today. That's gone on behind the scenes. I don't know who reported it, and I'm going to find out right now. But there was talks about Wilf potentially signing a new contract for a Saudi club. It seemed like it was all set and sealed. And then that came from, I'm going to try to find the source just now. But anyways, I'm going to find the source in just a second. But afterwards, Fabrizio Romano said that a deal has not been agreed with a Saudi club. Understand that Zaha's priority is to play European football and attracting strong interest from Champions League clubs. But basically, there was a scare. I think it came over from Italy about Zaha signing a new deal. Here we go. Rudy Galletti, I think it is, on Twitter. He said the following. He said, Wilfried Zaha reached an agreement with Al Nassr and is ready to land in Saudi. Just signatures missing, but as it stands, it seems a matter of time. This tweet got posted at 6:23. Then about, let's say, when did Fabrizio Romano post this? He posted an hour later, basically. He said that that's not true. Look, with the Wilf situation, I don't think anything has changed. I think there's always going to be offers there from Saudi, which is what we expect, right? I mean, there's going to be offers there, but it's on Wilf to whether to approve it or not. And by the way, Palace offering £200,000 a week. I was thinking about this as well. Palace offering £200,000 a week for Wilf to stay at the club doesn't mean that he will earn the most staying at Palace, because I was thinking about this. And if he doesn't get taxed and Saudi Arabia, and let's say they offer him £150,000 a week there, maybe he potentially earns more. I haven't got the tax bracket up with me and how much Wolf would be taxed if he earns £200,000 a week, but you could potentially get less money technically in Saudi and still earn more than he does here. But that's if he wants to move to Saudi. And based on Fabrizio Romano, that's not the case. He wants to stay in Europe, but there was a scare for 2 to 3 hours that Wolf is leaving. I don't know who this guy is that tweeted it, but look, there's been nothing agreed so far, the same Fabrizio Romano. And that's what I expect as well. And literally, I think it'll take another few weeks for Wilf to be confirmed. I don't think he's made up his mind yet. And the Athletic article suggested that as well. Like, we don't know yet with the Wilf situation. But if he was to leave, I'll say this as well. If Zaha was to leave, I think it'll be the best time for him to leave within this 10 years we've been in the Premier League. Because I genuinely feel like we've got a wider squad, a bigger squad that could actually take the burden of Zaha not being in the team. And we've seen it with the likes of Eze and Elise and Gehi. So I don't think it'll be the worst case scenario if Zaha was to leave, but I think it was a bit premature from the journalist that works for, I think, Sky Italia. I'll get up again. He works for AC Milan. I think he's a transfer expert, according to him, anyways. And Sky Sports Quiz Reward. I don't know what on earth that is, but yeah, according to that journalist, Rudy Galetti, I think that was a bit. You got a bit too excited by that, saying that Zaha signed a new deal in Saudi. I don't think that's not the case based on what Fabrizio is saying as well. Julian journalist Rudy Galetti says, will Saudi move agreed? Fabrizio Romano saying he is agreed. Yeah, I think I'll agree. I think I'm leaning more towards Fabrizio Romano than Rudy Galetti. Let's just say that. I think Fabrizio Romano is one of the most respected journalists out there. And also, no other journalists have said that Will Saudi move has been agreed. And, he basically got shut up in 1 hour. So, yeah. Look, with the Will update is, essentially, there's no update. There was a scare for 1 hour, if you see it as a scare. But it seemed like that's not true in the first place. Gyökeres will end up being the same player as Mateta, says Callum. Interesting. So some of you lot don't want Gyökeres. I think his hold-up play is probably a bit better than Mateta. I'll say that. And I think he'll be an improvement to Mateta, but you never know. Championship to the Premier League, 2 different lengths. I'll still be willing to give him a go, in all honesty, over Mateta and Edward, and we should sell him. So yeah, it hasn't been agreed yet. I know what you're saying, Red, as well. Yet, yes, it hasn't been agreed yet, but then there's been them talks about Saudi move all along. There's nothing that's really been changed. What Fabrizio has said is that nothing has been agreed. So we're basically where we were yesterday. Nothing's been agreed. So what's that first story all about? About Zaha, ready to land in Saudi Arabia? I think that was premature. Like, why would you say that? And when that's not really the case. Herbs, Roy, and Zaha today, says John. That's interesting. Personally, I think you might probably get your wishes true. I think with Roy staying, even though the Athletic article I just read about for the last 20 minutes to half an hour has suggested that the club hasn't made up their decision on Roy, which is interesting as well. And Mitch says, I feel like any striker is a gamble in the Premier League. Some step up, some can't. Rarely can you tell in advance, 100%. And you have to look at the fundamentals. I think Gyökeres' game is pretty solid. He scored goals as well. So I think it's a striker worth taking a risk on. But according to Athletic, we have an outside chance of him because Wolverhampton Wanderers are interested. And I think that's where we're at. I think that's another frustrating thing. It seemed like if another Premier League club is interested, the same happened with Flynn Downs as well. We was literally on the verge of signing him, and then he goes to West Ham. It seemed like, I don't know why, but we just can't compete. We just can't compete with other Premier League clubs or some of these players. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Decore was he linked with any other Premier League clubs? I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it seemed like it's going to be a long window. It seemed like it's going to be a long window. And I said it before. I came on here smiling, happy that, no negative news has so far come out. But today, I feel like the biggest negative news since the season has ended has actually happened today by the Athletic article, basically suggesting that we're not going to sign a new right back. We're not going to spend big unless we sell one of those key players. If Zaha leaves, it's going to be Matheus Franco, which not a negative, but yeah, it's still, there's nothing really positive coming from that article anyways about summer plans. It seemed like it's going to be another mediocre season. And, when you're 10 years in a Premier League, for the owners, I understand. Look, at the end of the day, you want to make your money. You want to make sure your business is financially, the less risky as possible, right? But as a fan, when you're staying 10 years, it depends what you want. As a fan, when you're staying for 10 years, I'd expect us to show a bit more ambition than what we've done so far. We've had that one good window under Elise, under Patrick Vieira, where we brought in Elise, we brought in Gehi, Anderson. I think that was very solid. I'm not expecting a window like that, but when you see articles like this suggesting that, our priorities ain't in the position that we need to strengthen, it makes you question about what our objectives are for next season. Is there another season of just wanting to stay up? Of course, that should be the natural objective, but are we going to be happy with just staying up? You want to stay up, but you also want to maybe finish in the top 10. We haven't finished in the top 10. Well, we finished in the top 10 only once since we got promoted. Teams are doing that in the first season after getting promoted. And I'm not trying to act spoil or anything, but you would expect a bit more ambition. And right now, with the players that we have, and also with the managers that we've been linked with, it's not really a good sign, in honesty. It doesn't look like a good sign, but maybe we're just playing the reverse card. Maybe we're going to come out, we're going to spend big, and we're just, I'm trying to find the positives out of this article. Maybe we'll put this article out to make sure other teams know, that we're tight and all of that. Maybe we do have money and we're going to spend it, but maybe we're just playing our cards close to our chest and we're not really, willing to put our business out there. But then again, why would he put this out there? Risky not strengthening, in my opinion, says Red. Yep. Ian says, I think if Potter can work with Gahey, Eze, and Elise, he will enhance them better than what he worked with at Brighton. I agree, because he improved players at Brighton as well. But the first step to that is, how do you attract Graham Potter? I think that's the first thing that you have to look at. How do you attract Graham Potter? I think for a manager like that, if West Ham do win tomorrow, they're going to have European football. If I'm Graham Potter and West Ham come to you saying, well, we're going to give you a bigger budget, you're going to have European football, you're also going to be in London, so that doesn't make a difference. I mean, who would you, move your Palace bias aside, who would you rather sign for Graham Potter? Now, of course, we don't know the details. Maybe Palace offering more wages and this and that, but on paper, you would expect him to go to West Ham if they get rid of David Moyes. And that's the thing. Why is that the case? Why is that the case? Why can't we be as as ambitious as West Ham are? Didn't Steve Parish say in the end of the season speech, we're going to push on next season, exciting times are coming ahead? But that's the PR. I've seen this PR. There will probably be a good article that gets released by Parish that talks to the newspapers and everything works out well. There'll probably be something like that. I'm not saying Parish is a bad owner or anything, or bad chairman. I'm not saying anything like that, but then you want to see a bit of ambition. And the excuse right now is the newsstand, I guess, and not want to spend big. But when is this going to change? Because we can't just keep staying at this level. Sooner rather than later, you'll have a season where things don't work out and you're genuinely looking at relegation. You may have made an argument that this was a season where we didn't really push on last time and we struggled as a result of it. But I want us to strengthen the position that we need to strengthen. I don't want us to go and be low spenders year on year in the Premier League. I want us to be a bit more ambitious than that. And one good window doesn't cut it for me, personally. Because one good window, if you have bad 5 windows and upcoming windows, then what does that one good window mean? But yeah, look, if you sell Gahey, I think we'll bring in. If you sell Gahey, I think we'll bring in a few players. I do think that will happen. But that's if we do sell him, because it seems like we're not willing to sell him at this stage unless a major offer comes. So it's a case of keep it tight as it is and go next season with the same players. Are we getting a new stand now? I ain't heard anything. Yeah, we seem like we should be getting a new stand. I don't think it's going to be now or next year. But I think from what I gathered, as far as I can remember, I think the work should start at the end of upcoming season. So the new stand probably taking another 2 to 3 years, I assume, to happen, in theory. Luke says, as a football club, you want to win prizes, right? Yeah, that's what you want. And I think that's what fans want as well. But then again, you need to strengthen in positions and you need to improve the squad to have a better chance of winning prizes. And from what I'm gathering from the article, it seems like that's not what we're willing to do. But look, people, somehow, don't ask me why or how, we've managed to talk for 53 minutes about the article, about Zaha and also Jefferson Lerma. As I said, there'll be more content coming out on Jefferson Lerma once that is announced. So hopefully we have a few things in the works about that. But let me know what you guys think in the live comment section and the comment section down below on these stories as well. If you have enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, people. Very late one today, but thanks to everyone who's tuned in live. I thought it might be worth just jumping on and talking about what's going on. So thanks to everyone that's tuned in live. We will be back hopefully tomorrow for live Palace news. If anything else happens, as always, make sure to turn on the notification bell to not miss out on these live videos. And until next time, up the Palace.